Hi folks, welcome to week 32 of Matthew's Movie Mentions. So this is films for the week up to 13th of August. And randomly I've watched lots of films that were aimed at a younger audience, kids films this week. Completely didn't plan to do that, and to a greater or lesser success for some of them. So this week we are going to be talking about Hugo, To Kill a Mockingbird, Flatliners, Good Morning Vietnam, the SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water, Teen Titans Go to the Movies, Kingsman, The Golden Circle, The Descent, Paddington, and Paddington 2. So, Hugo, I had been recommended it by a number of people. They told me how good the film was, and it's amazing. I should definitely watch it because it's so wonderful. And I think that might have been to the detriment of the film. I was left a bit underwhelmed in the end, I'm afraid. I think, for me, it's particularly because the film does have some fantastical elements, but it doesn't go far enough with them. It's almost like it's trying to root itself in a realistic world, and then it couldn't decide which way to go, and it kind of ends up being not quite a real world film, not quite a fantastical movie. Next on the list, To Kill a Mockingbird. I've never read it during my teen years like most people did, so it was definitely a story that I thought I should know and experience. I was really surprised how well the tale was told, given it was mostly in the point of view of the children, but still handled very mature themes. And very mature elements. I was even more surprised with what happens in the end of the story. I don't really want to spoil it because I was really impressed with it, but it made some really bold decisions that I think make me appreciate and go, yes, I can see why this is a great story that people hold it up to be. So yeah, really pleased that I finally have watched that now. Flatliners, we are covering on Pop Culture Deprived, and I would admit I found it hard to find topics of conversation. The film does some interesting stuff, but for me it never goes far enough with them. It has too many plates spinning and too many stories going on to really be able to pay attention to any of them in the way that they really deserve. Good Morning Vietnam, another classic movie that I have wanted to see for a while. It feels like it's doing the same sort of story that I've seen elsewhere. I don't know if that's either because I've seen films that were based on this or took this story elsewhere, or if it's just a story that's done fairly often. It was enjoyable enough though. The SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, I'm a bit mixed on. Some of it was very clever and did some interesting stuff. Some of it was just the character jokes that they do in every time I've seen SpongeBob SquarePants is the same stuff. So it was fun enough. Teen Titans Go to the Movies, I was really excited to see, and I was not left disappointed. The DC comic references in it were wonderful. There were many inside things that I absolutely relished. There were a few jokes that my nephew particularly enjoyed too, but he was less enthused about it than I was, so I don't know if they purposely pitched it more for DC fans than for children. I was a little disappointed they didn't do more with the Batman-Robin relationship they could have done. And they didn't do as much that was impactful on the characters and the relationships in general from the series. But the stuff with Slade was exceptional. The plot was really well done, and it had some great performances. Kingsman, The Golden Circle, don't watch this film. It's really bad. I enjoyed the first one because Colin Firth was charming and interesting throughout it. There's an action sequence in the middle, which is superb. This film is missing all of that, and what's left is absolutely grim. So don't watch it. The Descent I'd been recommended to watch because it was apparently a good horror, and I can see that it is, but it had a lot of traits of a more old-fashioned type of horror movie. You don't see the creature, in inverted commas, for a very long time, but when you do, you just absolutely see it, and it becomes almost a bit sort of slasher-esque. It was very interesting. The full ending that we get in the UK definitely added an interesting extra layer on top, and then reading some of the production elements, it made the film even better afterwards. Paddington was an utterly ordinary British children's film. There was not much in there for adults, it was a very standard plot, and there was nothing that stood out about it. Paddington 2 was surprisingly much better, and I was only watching Paddington 1 because people had recommended me to the second one so much. It has a much more varied plot, although it's not the deepest. There was a mix of performances, some of which are very good, and it had a number of moments that were really quite fun. My recommendation this week, most of you have probably heard or seen or read To Kill a Mockingbird, but if you haven't, I'd recommend that. But my actual recommendation of the week is definitely Teen Titans Go to the Movies. It was very like, and as good as, a PG-rated Deadpool movie, with the number of references that were intended for the audience watching rather than being part of the film itself. The casting was a great reference, the humour was always on point, and it was a really fun hour and a half, so go check that out. Next week, hopefully lots of different films. As ever, there's a lot out of the cinema, so I'm hoping to see them. I'm also looking for recommendations. So I've got a few things that I've been finding on TV recently, but as you've heard today, I've had a lot of good recommendations recently. So if there's something you think I should watch, something coming out, something that's coming on Netflix that I should see, please drop me a message. Look me up on Twitter or comment on this podcast or find me anywhere and tell me what you think I should watch. Otherwise, I'll speak to everyone on week 33.